The breaking in is a very simple affair. While the animal is down, the eyes are bandaged and a powerful Spanish bit placed in the mouth. This accomplished, he is allowed to get up and the saddle is firmly cinched. The saddles are commonly used in California differ very little from those used back in Mexico. The stirrups are cut from a block of wood, allowing only the point of the toe to be inserted. They are set far back and oblige the rider to stand rather than sit in the saddle. One girth only is used, styled a sitch, made of horsehair and extremely wide. No buckles or stitching is used, but all is fastened with strips of rawhide. Everything being complete, the rider fixes himself firmly in the saddle and leaning forward jerks off the bind. It is now an open question who is to have the best of it. If the man succeeds in sitting on the Mustang until he can spur him into a gallop, his wildness is soon taken out of him, and one or two more lessons complete the breaking. Joe by this time has made his appearance with the Mustangs. Mounting away, he went at a raking gallop. I know no exercise half as exhilarating and exciting as the lope. A kind of long canter, the traveling pace of a Mustang. There is no jarring or jolting. All one has to do is fit firmly in the saddle. The horse, obeying the slightest turn of the wrist or check of the rein, swings along for hours at a stretch, without any show of weariness. Having crossed the Sacramento in a scow, a kind of rough ferry boat, our road lay over broad plains and through scattered belts of timber. The grass was completely burnt up, and the series of gravelly arroyos in and out which were continually plunged and scrambled to mark clearly the course of the wintry streams. The air felt hot and sultry, but fragrant with the perfume of the mountain codweed. Not a cloud was visible in the lurid sky, and the distant mountains thinly dotted with timber seemed so softened and subdued as seen through the blue haze. We entered a valley leading through a pile of volcanic hills that once could easily have imagined have been once the habitat of a civilized man. The wooded glades had all the appearance of lawns and parks and planted with exquisite taste. The trees, in nothing resembling the wild growth of the forest, were grouped in every variety of graceful outline. On the either side of the hill were covered with wild oat as thick as it could grow, its golden yellow tint contrasting with the dark glossy green of the cypress. The oak and manzanita had an indescribably charming effect. As we advanced, the valley gradually narrowed until it became a mere canyon, the Spanish for funnel, shut in by vast masses of rock that looked like heaps of slag and cinder, bare, black, and treeless. A small stream of bitter, dark, intensely salt water trickled slowly through the gorge. Following a rough kind of road that led up the base of the hills for about 2 miles, we entered what I imagine was the crater of an extinct volcano nearly circular, about a mile in diameter and shut in on every side by columnar walls of basalt. There was a weird desolation about the place that was forcibly reminded of the Great Wolf's Glen in Der Freischutz, a fit haunt for Zamiel. Scarce a trace of forest life was to be seen. Not a tree or flower, everything looked scorched and cinderous, like the debris of a terrible fire, and smelt like a lime kiln on a summer night. A long, narrow house resembling a cattle shed stood in the center of the circle. "Wall, Captain, I guess we made the right anyhow," said the major, as we drew up the door of the most uninviting-looking establishment. "A mighty tall smell of brimstone," he further added, "seems coming up from old Hoof's stovepipe. Calculate he's doing a tallish kind of dinner below." I had no time to reply, ere the host, owner, and general manager of the Tuscan Springs made his appearance. "How's your health, Doctor?" inquired the major. "I brought up Captain to have a peep at your location. He's mighty curious about these kinds of diggings." "Well, Captain," said the doctor, in a long, drawling voice, "I'm glad to see you. I rather guess you don't see much natural, ready-made places for curing just every sickness. In the old country, as we have in California. Here, boy will put up the Mustangs and now step in and I'll tell old auntie to scramble up some eggs and bacon. And then we can take a look around the springs." Auntie was a quaint specimen of the feminine gender. Not all suggestive of the gentler sex, her features were small but sharply cut. She was bent naturally, but not from age, and reminded me of a witch. One would not have felt at all astonished at seeing her mount a broomstick and start on an aerial trip over the burnt-up rocks. But all honor to her skill as a cook. She did her fixings admirably. During dinner, I had ample time to take stock of Dr. Ephraim Meadows. His face would have been a fortune as a study to a painter. His forehead high but narrow, his eyebrows thick, bushy, and overhanging. His hair would have joined his eyebrows had not a narrow line of yellow skin formed a kind of boundary between them. Peering out from beneath his shaggy hair were two little twinkling, restless gray eyes, more roguish than good-natured. His nose, crooked and sharp, was like that of a beak of a buzzard, with thin, dry lips that shut in a straight line, which told in pretty plain language he could be resolute and rusty if need be. The tip of his chin, bent up in an easy curve, was covered with a yellowish beard that had been made guiltless of comb or shears for many a day. His nether limbs were clad in leather, never mentionums, kept up by a wide belt from which dangled a six-shooter, a red shirt, and an immense collar that reached the point of the shoulders, and a dirty jean jacket completed his costume. Our meal over, we started to see the wonders of the doctor's establishment. The house, or hospital as he designated it, was a long frame building divided into numerous small rooms, all opening on a kind of platform that extended the entire length of the building, and sheltered overhead a rough kind of veranda. A camp bed, wash basin, and stool constituted the furniture of each apartment. 4 sickly men were walking feebly up and down the platform. These, the doctor assured me, were giants now as compared to what they had been ere they stumbled on the Tuscan springs and his water cure. The springs are about 10 in number, but not all alike. In some of them, the water rises at temperature near to boiling, and densely impregnated with sulfurated hydrogen gas, perfectly poisoning the air with the most insufferable stench. In others, again, the waters bubble up tepid but bitter and saline. From 2 of them that widen into pools, gas, I imagine some compound of hydrogen, rises constantly to the surface. When I applied a match to the water, a sudden flash lighted up the pool for a second or two, and this could be repeated at intervals of 3 or 4 minutes. This gas, by simple contrivance, is collected and conveyed into a small shanty dignified with the name of steam bath. The gas being used to heat the water from one of the springs so as to fill a small room with steam. It is one of the most singular and interesting places I have ever visited. There can be no doubt that the springs rise from the crater of an extinct volcano, and that there is some active volcanic action still going on in the depths below. Incrustations of various salts and sulfurs covered the edges of the pool and rocks over which the water runs. The water they drink has to be brought from the spring to the other side of the encircling hills. Although at this place I observed more direct evidence of some great internal fire or subterranean laboratory in which nature is ever transforming the elemental forms of crude matter into available materials for the supply of organic life, still throughout Oregon and California, I have constantly come across similar sulfurous and saline eruptions, particularly soda water springs. where the water rises through the earth, thoroughly impregnated with carbonic acid gas. At Nepal, not far from San Francisco, native soda water is collected and bottled in springs for the supply of San Francisco markets. Olympian nectar was never more grateful to thirsty gods than in this soda water to the hot, parched, and thirsty hunter.